The renowned bard Froderic Dartwild has met an unfortunate demise, and his prized mandolin Golden Axe has been stolen from his grave. To make matters worse, Froderic has risen from the dead as a zombie and is now terrorizing the hamlet of Toadhop. Do your characters have what it takes to track down Golden Axe from whomever stole it and return it to Froderic, allowing the bard to find peace in death once again? I'm John, and you're watching Dragons and Flagons. Axe from the Grave is a 6th level adventure in the anthology book Keys from the Golden Vault. If you're planning on playing this adventure in the future or want to read it for yourself or think that knowing anything about the story in advance will spoil your adventure or your experience in any way, back out now. I'm going to be digging deep into this adventure, mainly focusing on the background and the story and the lore and what have you, but not only to help dungeon masters prepare, but also to provide you an overview and my thoughts to help you determine if you really want to play this game with your party or not. Froderic, fondly known as Frody, was a gifted human bard who hailed from a peaceful hamlet of Toadhop. His musical talents were unparalleled, and he enchanted audiences with his mandolin skills. Gifted an instrument of the bard called Golden Axe, Frody's reputation as a performer soared. However, his adventurous spirit eventually led to his demise as he fell victim to a manicore's attack. After his passing, Frody was buried in Toadhop alongside his family, with Golden Axe laid to rest with him. This caught the attention of Scythian Skalderang, a tiefling seeking to repay his family debts. Scythian, who has turned his family mansion into a conservatory for aspiring musicians, saw an opportunity to win favor with Wily Van Timmel, one of his talented students. He conspired to steal Golden Axe from Frody's grave and to present it to Wily as a gift, hoping to finally secure financial support from her affluent family. Scythian enlisted the help of 2 halflings, Mackerel Mudbottom and Trout Bonanza, to help carry out this grave robbery. They succeeded in their task, but to their shock, Frody's restless spirit awakened and sought refuge in his mother's old cabin. The fearful residents of Toadhop have been living in unease ever since. As your characters arrive in Toadhop, they'll learn of the disturbance of Frody's grave and the zombified bard looking for justice. Local residents implore the characters to communicate with Frody, who's taken refuge in a cabin on the outskirts of town. From the undead bard, the characters discover the stolen mandolin's name, Golden Axe, as well as the identities of the grave robbers. Frody refuses to return to his grave until the mandolin is rightfully restored. If the characters agree to assist, they set out to confront the halfling grave robbers, Mackerel and Trout, who reside in a riverside abode not far from Toadhop. The halflings reveal that their employer, Scythian, possesses the Golden Axe and intends to gift it to one of his students at the Skalderang Conservatory. The heart of this adventure lies in stealing back the Golden Axe from the conservatory. And it's worth noting that having a bard in your party can prove advantageous throughout this mission. This adventure has a few fun and interesting locations that I highly recommend you and your players visit. These locations provide wonderful roleplay opportunities, and personally, I think they're unique enough to provide fantastic memories. First off is the rustic hamlet of Toadhop, which can be located in any countryside setting. It boasts a population of 30, which are all hardworking folk, if not a bit backwoods. There are 2 local establishments that cater to visitors and adventurers. The inn, called Misty's Banks, and the tavern called My Left Boot. The town has an honorary mayor, a sow called Jana Bean, who has the word mayor painted on its side, just in case someone forgets. While in Toadhop, there will be plenty of opportunities for roleplay with your characters. Everyone in town, all 30 of them, they will know about Frody, and they will likely be talking about it. It's the talk of the town. But that's not the only thing they should be talking about. I highly recommend adding a few other lightweight storylines to the town. An easy one could be Jana Bean recently winning the election as mayor. If your players dig deeper into this, you can explain that there wasn't any competition, or maybe that there was some competition. Maybe it's a duck named Derek, or whatever. Honestly, it's something to put a smile on your players' faces. Another could be Mr. Walker's missing mule, which has disappeared from a tree it was tied to while he was answering the call of nature. No matter what you think of, have it be more of the normal gossip in town. People will want to talk about Froddy, but that's not the only thing they're talking about. So let them expand your world a bit and let them discuss other things that are happening in town. In the end, you need to make sure that you give directions to Froddy's house, Dartwild Cabin. This is ultimately just to kick off the adventure. Once they get there, they will learn about the next interesting locations that they should go to. While traveling to Dartwild Cabin, 4 unkept youths will begin following you. They're just simply some curious children who, don't get to see adventurers very often, and this is probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened in their entire lives. First Froddy's death, now some adventurers. It's a big deal. Potentially, if you had an election for the new mayor, wow, triple threat. Once you reach the cabin, they're going to urge you on. They'll push you to go inside. They'll heckle you a little bit. This will provide you another opportunity to put a smile on your players' faces when they start arguing with each other over, or potentially pull your characters into their argument. In the end, they're terrified of Froddy, and just a bit of morbid curiosity has brought them here with you. The cabin is full of buzzing flies, and it stinks of death. In the corner in the kitchen is Froddy. He doesn't attack or do anything alarming. He just simply wants to have a conversation with you. Along with some fun roleplay with Froddy, you can also add some constitution checks if the smell is too much for any of your players. Maybe have one vomit, assuming they roll poorly, and trigger more conversation with Froddy. You could have him maybe downtrodden on himself. He's most likely has a pretty high charisma in life, but in death, maybe he's kind of sad that all of this has happened to him. Honestly, in the end, when's the next time you're going to get to roleplay a zombie? This should definitely make a memorable moment. Once you're done having fun with Froddy, you need to make sure that you get the basic business settled. Tell the players about the grave theft, who robbed the grave, and honestly, where to find them. Froddy will explain that the golden axe was his prized possession in life, and he wanted to spend his afterlife with it. 2 halflings, Mackerel and Trout, they stole it from him while he was eternally resting, and they left before he could fully animate. Froddy isn't exactly sure where to find them, but he does know that they have local accents, so someone in town should be able to help you find them. After another conversation in town, the players should be able to find directions to Mackerel and Trout's home, which is about 5 miles from town. It's a hut on stilts next to the river. Upon approaching the hut, you'll find the halflings relaxing and enjoying the day with a mule they call Lucky Me. In fact, the mule doesn't belong to the halflings. They found it tied to a tree closer to town. And now they just feed it carrots and turnips that they grow. Mackerel and Trout should provide another fun opportunity for a roleplay. If the players dig in and start talking with them, they can find out that they were once employed as olive pickers in the Skalderang orchard, but now they make a living catching crayfish and frogs, and their livelihood was disrupted when the orchard's trees mysteriously died. It's suspected to be the result of poisoning, though the culprits remain unknown. They now perform occasional chores for Scythen just to supplement their meager incomes. Paid by Scythen, Mackerel and Trout were asked to steal the mandolin. Upon searching their humble home, hut, whatever you want to call it, the characters will come across a small purse of 20 gold pieces, the ill-gotten proceeds of their theft. Uncertain about how to spend their gold, the halflings are entertaining the idea of purchasing a dragon chess set, despite neither of them actually knowing how to play the game. Unaware of the consequence of their grave robbing venture, the mere thought of the undead Froddy seeking revenge on them from beyond the grave is enough to make Mackerel and Trout to confess everything. Any serious questioning or threats prompt immediate cooperation. The halflings willingly provide really the following information. First, Scythen is in possession of the stolen mandolin. He is burdened by debt collectors. To alleviate his financial struggles, he's transformed his mansion into a conservatory for young, wealthy musicians. While Scythen is a musician himself, Mackerel and Trout are pretty unfamiliar with his performances. Scythen also intends to present the Golden Axe to Wily Van Timmel, one of his more talented students. The Van Timmel family is exceedingly wealthy, and Scythen believes that their ongoing financial support outweighs the value of the mandolin itself. Finally, while the halflings don't have an actual map of the Skalderang Conservatory, they do know enough about it to make a miniature version from sand. It'll take them about 20 minutes, and I'm going to make the assumption that they're going to argue through the whole thing. But once it's complete, they'll show the players the outside of the building and begin so that they can begin planning their heist. They will also explain that the building has 4 floors. The doors are sturdy and wooden and locked, and most of the staff has been let go, except for the cook and the housekeeper, as well as other small details your party may find helpful. After all that, the adventure finally, truly in earnest begins. Depending on the type of party you have at your table, the first half of this adventure can either be really long if they're really into the role play and that aspect of the game. But on the other hand, if your players don't enjoy role-playing or aren't really seeming to enjoy the role-play, you can kind of fast forward past much of this to get to the part where the planning begins. Okay, so I'm going to pause the story for a minute here so I can kind of explain who Scythen Skalderang is. Scythen is a tiefling with blue skin and black horns, and he's inherited his parents' estate, as well as their debt. After a mysterious poison killed off the olive orchard, Scythen tried to figure out how to make, ends meet. Left with only a mansion and its furnishings, including numerous musical instruments, Scythen realized he could pay off his family's debt by transforming the mansion into a conservatory for wealthy young musicians. Scythen is a rather unhappy individual, often raining on everyone's parade and lacking in social graces. He wears a master key around his neck, which unlocks doors inside the conservatory, while the housekeeper also possesses another master key. Surprisingly, Scythen has a deep fear of frogs and toads, stemming from a childhood incident where he was swallowed by a giant toad. Mackerel and Trout will reveal that. They're also going to reveal that Scythen has an acquaintance living at the house with him named Joster Merritt. And they believe that he's been influencing him. Joster is a servant of the demon lord Grist and takes the form of a tall, beautiful male tiefling and communicates telepathically with Scythen. Joster is actually an incubus. Unbeknownst to Scythen, Joster is actually the one responsible for poisoning the Skalderang orchard, following Grist's instructions to prevent further olive growth. Joster intends for Scythen to use his connections with the elite families of his students to amass wealth and influence, leading to a decadent cult worthy of Grist. However, Scythen believes that Joster cares for his well-being, and he's unaware of the incubus's true intentions. The Skalderang Conservatory is actually situated amidst a withered olive orchard near a city, approximately 2 days' journey from Toadhop on horseback. As the characters approach the conservatory, they are greeted by a somber sight, a brooding keep surrounded by rows of dead olive trees. The cobblestone driveway needs repair and cuts through the orchard and leads to the conservatory, forming a loop before it reaching the entrance. A plain wooden sign is posted at the driveway's meeting point with the main road, and it declares that the conservatory is off limits to tours, solicitors, and amateurs. The ground throughout the orchard is tainted with a putrid, oily substance known as demon ichor, which causes the demise of the olive trees. Characters with keen observation skills can recognize this foul presence by closely examining the saturated earth. Those who succeed in a nature check, DC 15, they can identify the substance as demon ichor. Character who achieves a roll of 20 or higher gains further insight, realizing the connection with Joster. Within the conservatory are 4 students as well as 2 servants. The adventure does provide a paragraph of information about each one of them, but all in all, they are all non-combatants. The children are likely to be scared if anything dangerous happens around them. They will scream loudly and try to hide. Moreover, they'll refuse to cooperate with anyone that opposes Scythian until his true colors are revealed to them. Finally, while the students are aware of the halfling and the mandolin, they have no idea that it was actually stolen from a grave. If they do find this out, they will pack up their shit and get the hell out of there right away. Scythian, on the other hand, can't afford to lose his students. So if he assumes or is threatened with the students finding out about the grave robbery or even the demons living in his house, he'll immediately give up the instrument or anything else just to ensure the character's silence. The dungeon crawl portion of this heist adventure is the conservatory. Depending on how your characters want to play this out, it could be a lot of sneaking around room to room, or it could be a direct approach, just knocking on the front door. Now, assuming your players are not going to barge in and start killing children, this will be a lot of skill checks and sneaking, not to mention a ton of roleplay. Now, that's not to say there isn't any danger. There is an incubus in the house, and he's brought some friends. Throughout the house, you're going to find, or maybe not see them as they're invisible, some quasits, shadow demons, and a chasme. And to top it all off, if you do end up in a fight, Scythian he turns out to be a little more formidable than he seems, since he's been blessed by the demon Lord Grist. The joy of this adventure is not a bunch of static characters standing around waiting for you to find them. It's a very dynamic house. As you travel through, anyone could be at a different location based on the time of day. The adventure provides different time blocks for many of the rooms as you travel from room to room. Also, some of the monsters are wandering around as well, depending on the time of day. While reading this, I started to get old Nintendo vibes of the game called Maniac Mansion. I may be dating myself, but if you remember this one, it was a fun, fantastic game. In that game, the characters sneak into a mansion to save his girlfriend from a mad scientist who's been taken over by a sentient meteor or something. But in there, you're also interacting with a bunch of different other NPCs, I guess is what you could call them here in the relation, but also as you're solving puzzles and things along those lines, a lot of sneaking. Here, the party needs to get into the mansion to find the stolen instrument from the owner, who's been, I wouldn't say possessed, but tricked into believing and following this demon lord, while interacting with various NPCs and avoiding traps and monsters. I spent a lot of time reading over this adventure, not because it was difficult to read, but because it was fun to read. It kept inspiring me to add different elements to my own game. This adventure gets 2 thumbs up from me, but honestly, I'm a little bummed that I read it. I think it would be a lot of fun to play. I personally love roleplay in games, and this one really seems focused on that. This game focuses a lot on that roleplay. So if you have a party that likes roleplay opportunities, and you like to play out multiple NPCs and have long, fun conversations that can go in any different direction, I highly, highly, highly recommend this adventure. On the other hand, if your players like to fight and they don't typically roleplay too much and you end up spoon-feeding them information just to keep the story moving, then this probably won't be the best experience for everybody. But again, completely subjective. I know I kind of glossed over the house, but it's just a house. There's a music room and bedrooms and things along those lines, and it is what it is. I'm not going to go room by room. You can pick up the adventure yourself, and you can kind of read through it. It's pretty small. It's 4 stories, but it's not too that in depth. There's the monsters, there's the NPCs, depending on where they are in the adventure. So you need to read and understand what's going on, but it's a lot of, if you're into the roleplay aspect, it's a ton of fun. That about wraps this one up. As always, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. It would be really, really, really fantastic if you hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel to get more videos like this one. If I've missed something, or if I just didn't do something justice or anything along those lines, let me know in the comments. I really do try to respond to everybody. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more gaming excitement, and as always, play on and have fun.